It was a rainy Thursday evening in the heart of Chicago, the kind of rain that soaked through jackets and blurred the neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement. Most people were hurrying along, clutching umbrellas and briefcases, lost in their own worries, but Jake, a delivery driver, was taking his usual slow route through the quieter side streets. He wasn't late yet, and he liked these few minutes to himself, the quiet hum of the city broken only by the occasional splash of tires and puddles. That's when he saw her, a small, elderly woman struggling to carry a bundle of groceries across the slick sidewalk. Her coat was thin, not nearly enough for the weather, and her steps were cautious but unsteady. Without thinking twice, Jake slowed his van and rolled down the window. "Hey, do you need a hand with those?" he called. The woman looked up, startled at first, then relief softened her face. "Oh, would you? Thank you, young man. I don't know what I'd do without help these days," she said, her voice quivering slightly. Jake parked and jogged over, grabbing one of the heavier bags. The groceries were surprisingly heavy, and the rain was seeping through in seconds, soaking their clothes. Still, he didn't hesitate. "I've got this. Let's get you home safely," he said. As they walked together, the woman introduced herself as Mrs. Thompson. Her voice had a quiet warmth to it, and there was something in her eyes that spoke of both sorrow and resilience. She lived alone, her husband had passed years ago, and her children were scattered across the country. The more she spoke, the more Jake realized how isolated she had become, and a pang of empathy struck him. It was one thing to deliver packages all day, but it was another to encounter someone so quietly in need, someone whose world had shrunk to these small, solitary struggles. When they finally reached her modest apartment, she insisted he come inside for a cup of tea. Jake hesitated. He had more deliveries to make, more miles to cover, but something about her smile made him stay. Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of cinnamon and old books, and there was a gentle clutter of a life fully lived but now quietly paused. Mrs. Thompson began sharing stories of her late husband, their long walks in the park, the Sunday breakfasts they had shared for decades, and the little routines that had once filled her days with laughter. Jake listened, genuinely captivated. He had never thought much about the elderly or the lonely. He had been too busy surviving, too busy keeping his own head above water. But hearing her talk, seeing the sparkle in her eyes when she remembered the good times, made him pause and reflect. He offered to come by regularly, not because he wanted recognition, but because he wanted to make a difference, even in small ways. Mrs. Thompson chuckled, her eyes twinkling. "You know, kindness like yours, it's rarer than gold these days," she said softly. And so began a routine. Every Thursday, Jake would visit. They would share stories, sip tea, laugh over memories, or simply sit in companionable silence. Sometimes they would play cards, other times, Mrs. Thompson would knit while Jake listened to the rain patter against the windows. It became more than a visit, it became a connection, a bridge between two people who had previously been strangers in a bustling, indifferent world. One day, after several weeks of these visits, Mrs. Thompson handed him a small envelope. "I want you to have this," she said. Inside was a faded photograph of her and her husband, smiling in front of a tiny diner, arms around each other. "I want you to remember that small acts can mean a lot," she said, her voice gentle but firm. Jake felt a lump in his throat. He hadn't expected anything in return. That small, simple gesture held more weight than he could have imagined. He realized then that compassion was not measured in grand gestures but in the small, deliberate choices we make every day to care for someone else. The thought lingered with him long after he left her apartment that day, and it began to change the way he saw the world. Then came the unexpected twist. One morning, as Jake went about his usual deliveries, he received a call from a local news station. A neighbor had seen him helping Mrs. Thompson in the rain and had posted a video online. Overnight, it went viral. People from across the country praised his selflessness. Local businesses reached out to support him. Strangers wrote letters and sent messages, inspired by his simple act of kindness. Jake was stunned. He had never done anything for attention, he had done it because it was right. Yet, seeing the ripple effect of one small act was eye-opening. He realized how much impact even the smallest gestures could have. That one Thursday, helping a frail woman with groceries, had started a chain reaction of inspiration far beyond what he could have imagined. Months later, Mrs. Thompson's health began to decline. Jake found himself visiting more often, bringing not just groceries but also warmth, comfort, and companionship. When she passed away, she left him one last note, written in her delicate handwriting: "Thank you for reminding me that people still care. You are the light in a world that sometimes forgets how to shine." Jake held the note close, tears streaming down his face. That simple message became his guiding principle. He devoted himself to helping others wherever he could, not for recognition, not for praise, but because it was the right thing to do. Each act, no matter how small, could make a difference. Each person, no matter how overlooked, could feel seen and valued. And so Jake continued his life, carrying forward the lesson Mrs. Thompson had given him. He stopped rushing through life. He stopped ignoring the quiet struggles of the people around him. Every week, he sought opportunities to help, to listen, to connect. And every time someone asked why, he would smile gently and say, "Kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything." In the end, Jake's story became a quiet reminder to millions. Even in a world that often seems indifferent, a single act of compassion can spark hope, heal hearts, and remind humanity of what truly matters. It wasn't fame, it wasn't money, it was the simple human connection, the willingness to notice someone else's struggle, and the courage to act. And in that realization, the world seemed a little brighter, a little kinder, and a lot more hopeful.